Thank you. So I'm going to read some poems from the Migrant States, and their copies of the books are in the back. And, I'm an immigrant, and, like so many people in this country, and I was born in Ceylon, in Sri Lanka, it's called now. And, but I'm also an immigrant to American poetry, and for me, a dialogue with Walt Whitman seemed absolutely what I had to do in this book, to sort of, and so here, on his 200th birthday, I wrote this poem, Walt 200. Break the locks, unleash the mind. Walt Whitman has left Paumanok. He is abroad. He's sitting among us in our soul. He flies the posts with pigeons and the giant freight planes. He ups freight trains and rides into Mexico. He's on a P&O cruise visiting St. Kitts and Barbados. He has joined the merchant marine. He sails into Guantanamo. He throws fish into the sea in search of whales. He has the biggest, longest beard in the world. He jives, thrives, cavorts, shimmers. He's 200 years old today, and he does not give a flying rat. He's in your mind, Mr. President, even if you cannot smother or scratch or squeeze him out. He's gloriously spirit, gadfly, rabbit, and sloth. He nurses our democratic wounds. He knows how to write history from the pebble's view, the side glance of the wren, the snake hanging in the tree. He is black and white and all shades of grey. He is our friend and guide, and he will elect us every time we fall down. Let us go back to Paumanok with what we've learned these 200 years. Let us go back to set forth again Walt Whitman in our backpack. Thank you. So there are about a dozen poems in a sort of dialogue with Walt throughout the book. I'll read a couple more of those and then some other poems. Setting off. Walt explodes an impact in the mind. Nothing becomes everything, everything nothing. The equation turned inside out. Poems, democratic practice, phrenology, the discovery of India. There is no pebble from under which Walt does not peep out. I fell in love with him again at the Walt Whitman rest stop on the New Jersey Turnpike. I wanted to call a book Giant Blow Up Whitman, Walt Whitman Doll. He retired in Camden, nursed the wounded in Washington, walked up and down Paumanok, Manhattan, and Staten Islands, across Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx. He became our first American walking poet and the most photographed of his time. He gave me license to loaf, to lime, to go everywhere my heart wanted, and now that I've come back to stay, he invites me to go again. Thank you. And this one is called, this is not about Walt Whitman, not about his beard, his eye, his breath. This is not about his peering behind the tomatoes. This poem does not give a damn that he set off from Paumanok and ended up dressing the wounds of the Union dying and the Confederate dying because he was spotted in my dream, or was it another salt and pepper beard across enemy lines? He was indeed a contradiction. Man, woman, peasant, banker, slave, free man. He was too young to call himself gay, too old to call himself gay, too circumspect, too metaphoric, but he wrote how you settled your head athwart my hips and gently turned over upon me and parted the shirt from my bosom bone and plunged your tongue to my bare, stripped heart, and reached till you felt my beard, and reached till you held my feet. He was American, and he wrote of places as far as his imagination could travel. So India became his subject, and the moon, and the stars. Thank you. I've been called a political poet. Now, for me, that means the business of the community, polis, community. And that's the root of that word, politics. And I wrote this book in 2020, 10,000 Steps Against the Tyrant. And I wrote it during the campaign against that orange-haired fellow. And also in the during the pandemic, And my mother is a figure in this book. I took her to vote, and then, it was the mother of all elections, the mother of all pandemics. My mother, I think of her tonight because, she's been unwell but she's still, her spirit is still strong and she's still fighting on. So I dedicate this poem to her, and I wrote it a few years ago, and it's part of the section, the pandemic section. It's called Late Night Olive Oil. Let us put the letters and fears and boiling emotions on the page. Mummy, why did you go to the kitchen stealthily, without a word to your sleeping son, without your walker, to find the large bottle of olive oil, to pour it on the table and floor, to fill a small vessel which you meant to carry back to your room, as if nobody would notice until you called my name, because you could not negotiate the rest of the way from dining table to bedroom, vessel in hand, without cane or walker. I write to atone for my flailing words, saying, never, never, never again. The kitchen is prohibited. Your mania for oil in the hair is prohibited. The stealthy, mischievous, childish, truant foray into the darkness with a torch in hand, which you forgot on the countertop, all of this is prohibited. Your losing memory and control are prohibited. These words are prohibited. Decline and death are prohibited. Thank you. And, I took my mother to the polling station. I wrote this poem called Voting Song. I'm going to take Mother to the polling station. This may be her last chance to vote for the right path from the burning bush, sinking ship, roadkill, victims of the raging virus. I'm going to take Mother to the polling station. And son, make sure you get that absentee ballot sent here while you visit. Every vote will count. And daughter, although you cannot vote, not this time, I want you to know that we have tried with all of our heart and mind to throw the bastards out. The French call it poète engagé, you're like a committed poet, right? But I mean, the tent is big, in my view. My love, I'm voting. I'm crying, yes, but not to worry. These are happy tears, tears of bliss. I did not think God would have time to look out for me. Thank you, angel who intervened. Thank you, kindness to strangers, what you taught me, Mum and Dad. Thank you, poets, I love you as I love myself. Thank you, diplomats. Thank you, Kamala and Joe. Thank you, friends of America, Asia, Arabia, Australia, Europe, India, the Pacific Isles. Thank you, all peoples, animals, birds, plants, seeds, works of art, music, and dance not yet mentioned. Thank you, my love, voting. Thank you. And I'm going to keep an eye out for Tony because I need to have an idea about how long I'm going. But I think I'm going to read now from memory a poem which goes back some time when I lived in New York City, and it's called So Beautiful. It was a Saturday night. I was walking, I didn't have a job. I was quite several $1,000s in debt, and I was alone. And I was looking at couples walking hand in hand on the streets and in the subway, and this came like a gift to me from the other side, from God, the muse. It's called So Beautiful. So beautiful, that couple in handsome black and red clothes, walking along the street, her arms folded, his in pockets cold, scarves loosely wrapped about white necks. And in the subway car, a black man takes a black woman's hands, and her eyes look far away beyond the walls, under the sea, and his eyes concentrate on her hands as glasses drop slightly down his nose, as she turns and smiles, as he looks up at clay made whole. And she takes her hands about his cheeks, makes a vase, and roses are put in his mouth and hair. And her brown leather coat crumples as she kisses him, and his black windbreaker is crumpled by her kiss. And for 2 subway stops their kiss moves a man to write and get up in the morning and sing an old song to remember a woman in a dream who held his hands, wearing earrings of white moons, in black hair open as a fan, blowing honeyed wind about the room in which they loved and loved, as kingdoms came and went, in which they loved and loved, as the black man and woman left their embrace to slowly get up to the door by an old man in the window seat, into whose hands dropped 2 white moons. Thank you very much. I have some books in the back if you're interested. I also want to just say one thing. Look up beltwayeditions.com. It's the new publishing hot press of poetry. I'm doing it with Sarah Cahill-Marin, and we have some lovely books there as well that we are introducing to the world. Thanks very much.